my name is Kelly. Welcome to my channel. This video is part 2 of my female hormone balance video. So if you missed my part 1 video, make sure you go ahead and go back and check that out. Now you guys, a couple of weeks ago I actually just attended a functional endocrinology seminar, which was awesome, but it left me with much to say on this topic. So I will try to be as brief and concise as possible in this video. I have a feeling it's going to be a bit long. With that being said, if you guys want me to discuss any of the points that I'm making in this video in greater detail, go ahead and just leave your comments in the comment section below the video, and I can even, make separate videos about any of the points that I'm making. Just let me know what you guys are looking for. So let's go ahead and just get right into this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to list some common causes of female hormone imbalance. And again, I'm not going to repeat any of the things that I said in my first video, just to try to keep this short. So some of the things I'm talking about will make a bit more sense if you go back and watch the first part. Alright, so the first cause I'm going to talk about is hormonal birth control. It's kind of passed out like candy nowadays, you guys. I feel like it's sort of the band-aid fix-all remedy in the allopathic model. When a woman comes into the doctor for anything from acne to period cramps to irregular cycles, heavy bleeding, PMS, anything, they just kind of write a prescription for, the birth control pill. And, which is really sad because it really does miss out on a lot that can be done to try to correct the issue naturally and get to the root cause. So the way that this influences hormone production is that month after month it causes a situation where the progesterone levels fall and the estrogen levels rise, and leading to a situation of progesterone deficiency and estrogen dominance, which you'll know from my first video is not a good situation for our bodies. Now, hormonal birth control actually suppresses our body's own hormonal feedback loop integration system. And something to be aware of is that if you are on hormonal birth control for long enough, it can cause us to actually lose that hormonal feedback loop for our hormone production. And if that happens, then you could potentially run the risk of being dependent on hormone replacement therapy for the rest of your life. So something to know. Now, the way that hormonal birth control works to prevent pregnancy is that it's supposed to suppress ovulation each month. Now, when your ovary releases an egg and ovulates, the site where the egg is released produces what's called the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum then becomes the main site of your progesterone production for the last half of your cycle, up until your period starts. And that is the point in your cycle where your progesterone levels are supposed to be at their peak. And if you're not ovulating, you're not producing the corpus luteum, and you're not producing the amount of progesterone that you should month after month. Something else to be aware of that is a potential that could happen is that if your mother was on hormonal birth control before she got pregnant with you at some point in her life, it could actually have an influence on your own hormone levels currently. The same thing for your future children if you are on hormonal birth control or you have been. So something else to be aware of. All right, number 2, cholesterol lowering medications. Someday, you guys, I'm going to do a video for you on cholesterol facts versus myth. But what I want you to know for this topic is that all of your hormones are made from cholesterol. All hormones in the body, female and male hormones, thyroid, adrenal hormones, all of it, have cholesterol as their base molecule. So we need to be careful about these medications that are lowering our cholesterol, because cholesterol is a very, very necessary substance in our bodies for many different purposes, not just for hormone production. Number 3, chronic stress. Chronic stress can definitely have a negative impact on our hormone balance. Number 4, hormones in meat. We definitely do not want to be adding any hormones into our body through our diet that will compete with our body's own natural hormones at our cellular receptor sites. Number 5, exposure to hormone disrupting chemicals. These are also known as endocrine disruptors or xenoestrogens. Now, endocrine disruptors can be found in anything from plastics to herbicides, insecticides, household cleaners, cosmetics, shampoos, perfumes, detergents. They're unfortunately everywhere. Now, hormone disruptors can have any one of these 3 effects on the body. 1, they can affect how you break down and clear your body's excess hormone, also known as biotransformation. 2, they can make hormone receptor sites either more or less sensitive to hormones. Or number 3, they can completely block your body's hormone receptor sites altogether. So something important to note is that these xenoestrogens are much more potent and powerful than our body's own human estrogen that we produce. And what they can do is they can bind to our cellular receptor sites, and they can then mimic the effects of estrogen and lead to symptoms of estrogen dominance. So even though our bodies aren't necessarily producing an excess amount of estrogen, even though we're not necessarily producing a deficiency of progesterone, we can still have symptoms of estrogen dominance. Our bodies can still be suffering from that because of the influence of environmental xenoestrogens. And just like I talked about in my first video about early onset or precocious puberty being such a huge problem in our modern world today, the xenoestrogens are what is having such a huge effect on that and causing that issue. So it's really important for us to try to protect our children from this as much as we can. We can't protect them from all of it, but just try to minimize their exposure as much as we can from the time that they're in the womb. Number 6, underlying metabolic issues. Now, some of the metabolic issues that can have the greatest impact on your hormone balance would include poor blood sugar control, poor liver detoxification, gut imbalances, and poor dietary choices, especially when it comes to our dietary fat choices that affect our EFAs or essential fatty acid balance. I am going to be talking more about each of these things in just a minute. So in my first video, I shared with you guys that back in my early 20s, I was having some hormone imbalance symptoms, and I started taking steps at that time around age 22 to correct the symptoms that I was having and protect my hormone levels. And I started noticing a difference right away. I haven't had any of those symptoms in years now, and I just had my hormone levels checked a few months ago by my functional medicine doctor, and my hormone levels were wonderful. So what did I start doing at that time? Well, number 1, I stopped taking hormonal birth control. I was on the pill for 16 months before I knew any better, and when you know better, you do better. Now, if you are someone who is currently on hormonal contraceptives, specifically for the prevention of pregnancy, I just want to make you aware that there are other hormone-free options for managing your fertility, such as natural family planning. If that's something that you're interested in, I would highly recommend a book called Taking Charge of Your Fertility. You will learn so much about your body from that book. It is highly informative, and I definitely recommend it. Now, if you are someone who's currently on hormonal contraceptives for the management of your hormonal balance symptoms, then keep watching this video. Number 2, I started avoiding plastics. Now, I just talked about how plastics contain those endocrine disruptors called xenoestrogens that act as estrogen mimickers in our body. Now, you guys, is it enough to just simply buy BPA-free plastic? No, it is not. Plastic is plastic, unfortunately. Now, what BPA-free means is that just the chemical bisphenol A or BPA has not been added to the plastic. But what that means usually is that other bisphenols were added in its place that are just as bad, if not worse, than bisphenol A. They're still xenoestrogens. The other bisphenol still have a phenyl ring in its molecular structure. And guess what else has a phenyl ring in its molecular structure? Human estrogen. This phenyl ring is the key that unlocks our hormone receptor sites in our cells. The phenyl ring binds to our hormone receptor sites on our cells, and it is what enables these xenoestrogens to mimic the effects of estrogen in our bodies. Now, you guys, we live in a very, very plastic world, and there is no way to avoid it completely. It is literally impossible to achieve zero BPA influence in our world. It is found in our urine. We excrete it daily. Our bodies try to get rid of it. We try to detox from it. It's always around us. It is found in babies' cord blood. They are influenced by it in the womb. But let me just encourage you with this. There have been studies that have proven that, even just small changes like switching from plastic to glass water bottles are enough to actually lower the BPA content in our urine and what we excrete every day. So our small changes really do add up, and we can really work on lowering our BPA influence as much as possible. Number 3. I started avoiding toxic cosmetics and cleaning products and fragrances and soaps and shampoos and all of that kind of stuff. Again, because of those endocrine disrupting chemicals that they contain. So I won't lie about this. The truly natural brands can definitely come with a higher price tag. So years ago, what I started doing is I started teaching myself how to make all of these things homemade. And I have been sharing some recipes with you on my YouTube channel, and I will continue to share those if you're interested. And that is how I personally keep things cost effective. Usually my own recipes are even more clean than the most natural brands that I can find. Plus they're easy to make and they're very cost effective. So now under this topic, this also includes the avoidance of toxic feminine hygiene products like conventional tampons and pads. And, not to burst your bubble, but these also contain hormone disruptors like dioxins, and they are just adding fuel to a hormonal fire if you have any issues with your periods. So years ago, I switched to a medical grade silicone non-toxic menstrual cup. If you haven't heard of these before, I will go ahead and link a couple of them in the comment section below the video, just so that you can look into them. I use a brand called a Diva Cup, but there are lots of different brands that you can use. They are really great. And another natural option for you is cloth pads as well. Number 4, I overhauled my diet. What exactly do I mean by that? Let me give you some details. Number 1, based on overwhelming published medical research, I stopped fearing cholesterol. Number 2, I learned how to grow my own food and started buying the rest organic in the store. And again, to avoid ingesting those hormone disrupting chemicals in my food. I highly recommend buying whatever you can from a great local farm. And if you guys are local to me in the Kankakee County area, then feel free to reach out to me anytime for local farm recommendations. I have some good ones. Number 3, I worked on correcting my essential fatty acid balance, or my EFA balance. Now I'm going to pause here and elaborate on this quite a bit because it's really important. The essential fatty acid balance is referring to your dietary intake of omega-6 fatty acids and omega-3 fatty acids. They're called essential because these two fatty acids are both necessary to consume in your diet because our body cannot synthesize them on our own. Now the problem is that what is referred to lovingly as the standard American diet is way too high in omega-6s and way too low in omega-3s. And this imbalance is causing a state of inflammation in our bodies, chronic systemic inflammation. Now, fats high in omega-6s that we would want to avoid are vegetable oils like soybean oil, corn, canola, safflower, margarine. Those are your bad oils. Now, fats high in omega-3s that we do want to consume in our diet to restore our EFA balance would include grass-fed animal sources of fat. That's a very important distinction. Conventional grain-fed animal fats is not the same thing at all. Completely different bird than a grass-fed animal fat. So these would include like lard, tallow, ghee, butter, and then good vegetable sources would be flaxseed oil, virgin coconut oil, and extra virgin olive oil. Now, this is something really, really important to note. You cannot optimize your hormone levels if your essential fatty acid balance is off. You just can't. This is because EFAs and prostaglandins are hormonal precursors in our bodies and hormonal system modulators. So, ladies, if you are a woman who experiences pain associated with your menstrual cycle, like menstrual cramps, pelvic pain, breast tenderness, joint pain, or even PMS, it is very highly likely that you are experiencing what is called a prostaglandin shift due to an essential fatty acid imbalance. Now, the amount of pain that you experience during your menstrual cycle can tell you the degree to which your prostaglandin balance is off. So I think that these changes in my diet, especially restoring my EFA balance, is probably what made the biggest difference in my menstrual cycle and hormonal symptoms. Real quick, something I forgot to mention just a minute ago is that another really great tool that you can use to restore your EFA balance is the addition of a high quality fish oil to your supplement program. It can really help increase your omega-3s in your diet and restore that EFA balance pretty quickly. Alright, so if you are experiencing symptoms of hormone deficiency, like a progesterone deficiency or estrogen deficiency in perimenopause, does that mean that you will need hormone replacement therapy, either with synthetic or bioidentical hormones? Well, that is the million-dollar question, you guys. Let me just elaborate on a few things here. Now, what I do not personally condone is these knee-jerk reactions where we just automatically jump to hormone replacement therapy without the consideration of many different factors first. Now, there are some points that I want to drive home for you guys. Number one, there are so many steps from the top to the bottom in our hormone production where things can go wrong. From the first steps of hormone synthesis in the hypothalamus and pituitary, all the way down to our cellular response to the hormone. There's a lot of links in those chains. Number two, low hormone symptoms are not always due to low hormone levels. There are other factors that can be going on. So, number three, hormonal issues are many times more about hormone dysregulation than deficiency. Number four, just because a hormone is low doesn't mean you need hormone replacement therapy because of some of these issues I just talked about. So before we jump straight to that knee-jerk reaction and start lathering up in progesterone cream or popping birth control pills for every female issue under the sun, let's first ask ourselves why we are having these symptoms in the first place. What is going wrong in our bodies? Where exactly in the process are things going wrong? Because I'll tell you, treatment and healing will look a lot different based on which link in the chain is malfunctioning. Am I against hormone replacement therapy then? No, I am not. It has its place. It absolutely does. Hormone replacement therapy, depending on the exact cause and a person's exact hormonal environment, it can be exactly what someone needs. However, it could also make the next person much, much worse. So When you are at a point where you need professional help to sort out your hormone imbalance symptoms, I would highly recommend seeing a functional medicine practitioner. Now, functional endocrinology is about systems management. They help the patient identify the underlying causes of their hormone imbalance from a holistic, whole body, multi-system approach. Now, I cannot stress this enough. A problem with your hormones is not just a problem with your endocrine system. There are underlying issues in your GI system, your brain health, nervous system, your immune system that have caused the breakdowns in your endocrine system. Now, if you decide to choose a good functional endocrinologist, functional medicine practitioner to help you restore hormonal balance, he or she is going to have 4 main clinical priorities in treating you. First clinical priority would be supporting your blood glucose levels, believe it or not. If you are having insulin surges or blood sugar swings, either high or low, either reactive hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, you will not be able to balance anything in your body, let alone your hormones. Nothing in your body will be functioning properly. This is such a foundational and crucial, often overlooked and underdiagnosed concept. You guys, this is so foundational. Second clinical priority, support your liver detoxification pathways. This is because, number one, the liver is what clears your excess hormones. So let's say, for example, you could be producing an absolute perfect level of hormones. But if your liver is not detoxifying or biotransforming your excess hormone levels, you could have excess circulating blood hormones, and you can have symptoms of hormone dominance when you're not even producing excess hormone. You just need liver support. The liver is also what clears out all of these hormone disrupting chemicals that we're exposed to every single day in our food and our environment. So it's very important. Clinical priority number 3, balancing your essential fatty acids, just like I talked about earlier. And clinical priority number 4 is normalizing your gut. Now, I was really surprised to learn how intricately connected your gut health and your hormone balance is. Now, if your gut bacteria, which is also known as your microbiome, if that is imbalanced, it can completely transform the way that you are able to produce and balance your hormones. Your microbiome is responsible for producing so many hormonal precursors. It's amazing. You guys, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I can see it happening. There is this entire field of medicine emerging called microbiome endocrinology. It is so fascinating, I just can't even stand it. Look it up, it's cool. So other gut issues that can have an impact on your hormonal balance include food sensitivities, hidden gut infections, leaky gut syndrome, low stomach acid, and low digestive enzymes. Now, if you are having hormonal symptoms, I would highly recommend getting your hormone levels tested by a functional medicine practitioner. These things can be really difficult to diagnose just based on symptoms alone. And, testing itself can be really tricky for female hormones, for estrogen and progesterone, because it's like trying to hit a moving target with estrogen and progesterone levels constantly rising and falling throughout a woman's monthly cycle. And there are also different ways to test, such as blood or saliva, protein bound versus free fraction form, and your practitioner can definitely help you sort all of that out. So I know I have packed so much information into this video, and really any point that I talked about in this video I could have elaborated on to the point of creating its own video. So if you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave them in the comments section below and let me know what else you'd like to see. And if you liked what you heard, make sure you subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks, guys.